in a huge decision affecting LGBTQ rights. The U.S. Supreme Court on Friday carved out a significant exception to public accommodations laws that in most states bar discrimination based on sexual orientation. If you guys remember, there was a very famous case a couple years ago about a bakery.
Oh, the cake.
Yeah, and they're like, a gay couple comes in, they're like, we want to get a wedding cake. Christian baker, make my fucking cake.
And the Christian man said, no, against my religion, I'm not going to have two dudes in a suit on top of the cake.
Hey, you're lost, bakery.
Yeah, your financial loss.
Should have gone to a Chinese bakery.
Oh, dude.
They're like the least discriminatories.
They'll bake cakes for anything.
Yeah.
Will they bake a cake that says like, hey, fuck you for bringing COVID into America?
They'll bake that.
How many do you want?
They'll bake that. They'll bake a COVID-19 cake.
They're like, what kind of icing do you want on that?
They'll bake a 9/11 cake. They'll bake all kinds of cakes.
They'll have a fucking big bat on the top centerpiece. And it'll be
Head
like
bit off?
Yeah, a Wuhan special.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Big bat.
That's what's cool about Chinese people.
Yeah, dude, they're just trying to get paid, man.
They're like, they don't give a fuck.
Whatever, man.
So there's a lady named Lori Smith, and she's a Colorado web designer who is opposed to same-sex marriage. Personally, she challenged the state's public accommodations law, claiming that by requiring her to serve everyone equally, the state was unconstitutionally enlisting her and creating a message that she opposes, violating her First Amendment rights. Basically, like Bart, you are a web designer.
Okay.
And I am a white supremacist.
Yeah.
And I would like you to make an anti-Asian website.
Okay.
You need to make it for me, or I'll sue you.
I feel like I have a right to refuse service like that.
That's what she's saying, and many people say that that's fucked up because it's actually hurting LGBTQ rights because you can now openly discriminate against somebody if you want to. So like,
well, they're not discriminating. They're not going out and saying like fuck LGBTQ. They're just saying my business doesn't do that.
Are they saying that they're withholding their ability to express? So like, if you're not willing to make the website, if you're not willing to do the cake, then now that's a message they're trying to get out, and they're willing to pay for this service, but now you're withholding that ability.
Withholding the service. So I go to your restaurant, for example, and like, and it says like, we don't serve Trump supporters, and I'm like, I'm a Trump supporter. Why can't I eat here? Right? Like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like it kind of is baked into nice a lot of the different interactions that you could have with businesses.
Yeah.
And so the Supreme Court just said that you cannot force someone into saying something that they don't believe in by their word, right? You can't sue them and compel them to a certain speech that they're against.
That is like your First Amendment right? If you're like, let's say I'm a song writer, and if the contents of your song, like what you want me to write for you, doesn't match, then you kind of are forcing me to not have freedom in my speech and make something I don't believe.
Also, just not have freedom in your choice and what you want to do with your own work.
Yeah.
Well, remember Fuck the Police? Like NWA, right?
Yeah.
Like that, offended cops a lot.
Yeah.
And
You think they were pretty mad?
and it was a little bit.
Yeah.
And that was actually there was actually formal complaints about it too.
And they wanted to suppress it.
But that's also them from them. So it's not like someone else hiring them. Like, like those are their lyrics that they wrote.
Yeah.
Right.
And so they're exercising their freedom of speech.
Yeah, exactly. But then there's people who are offended by that.
Yeah.
And so in comes all of this, right? Now commerce is involved.
Yeah.
So
I kind of can argue for that if there are no other means but to go through a service to communicate. So for example, right, like let's say there's no phones, there's no
power company.
There's no way for me to even talk to you guys directly because I live in Alaska in a small town, right? Now let's say I needed to get a message out on Facebook Messenger or whatever, and they refuse the service. And in the world, there's no other option but one way of communicating to the rest of people. And then they just stop that for me. Then I can kind of see that. But if you can bake a cake yourself and make a message, if you can go to another bakery and get it done, if you have alternatives, you don't have to go through that one right? So then if you have
It's
options,
it's for creative businesses, right?
I don't know if that it's like that. I think it's just for commercial.
yeah. But then there's already a law that is basically you cannot refuse the right to service based on race or gender or whatever. That's already a law. The circumstance here is they don't want to write the stuff on the birthday cake and create. So they're like, I don't want to do that. But they probably would have serviced.
They could
gay
sell you the
couple
cake and sell
make
you the
something.
icing.
Yeah.
But I don't
Yeah,
want to
exactly.
write. Yeah.
I think they're zooming in a little bit more, and it's like you can't refuse right to service based off of gender, whatever, all that stuff. That's cool. But then now, if it's like, if you have to express yourself through that service in a specific way, that's what they have the
That's
right
what
to
Ryan's
do.
talking about. So it's called, the decision was limited because much of what might have been contested about the facts of the case was stipulated, namely that Mrs. Smith intends to work with couples to produce a customized story for their websites, using her words and her original artwork. And given those facts, Neil Gorsuch, Supreme Court Justice, Trump appointee, said it qualifies for constitutional protection. You're compelling her to use her speech and use her words and her imagery to make your point. She doesn't have to if she doesn't want to. But yeah, so well put, Ryan.
So it's a so this mainly affects businesses that there's a creative element. Right? It's not like you go out to an automatic door and it stays shut because you're gay.
Yeah.
It makes sense to me. It's like let's say you want a color tattoo.
Got a gaydar.
Kind of a good business.
How's the door know you're gay?
It's got a gaydar. Yeah.
I want to know.
There's a gaydar. They're like, sorry, Ryan, you're gay.
And why is the door gay?
Yeah.
The door's gay. It hates itself and it doesn't want gays to come in.
That's how it's programmed.
Yeah. You made the door gay.
AI is a thing.
Self-hating door.
You go to a black and gray tattoo specialist and you go, I want a color tattoo. They'll say no too.
Yeah.
It's like that's just not their
Right.
the way they express their art and their
Try going
service.
to a sushi restaurant in Japan and customize your shit.
Yeah.
Dude.
I'll spit in your face, dude.
I was in Vegas and I saw Gordon Ramsay. He was like, make me a fucking burger. He didn't do anything.
They won't even cut.
He yelled at me.
They won't even cut your pizza a specific way, like in places. But then I always thought it landed straight in the thing that we had before, where it's like, hey, if that's your decision, then it's the business's loss, and that's too bad for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like someone else will make that money. Someone else will,
That's how I see it.
And don't you want to do that anyway? Don't you want to give your money to a business that wants to do it for you instead of force one that doesn't?
Right.
Especially if it's a small business that like aligns with your values. Like if that's something that matters to you, yeah, that'd be cool.
That's rad. That's a great way to find that guy.
Yeah. It's like build your own little
But
community.
that's the thing, right? There are agitators and people who are professional sumans, if you will.
Suman.
Thank you. And that's kind of their whole thing, right? Is like find center of conflict, white hot conflict, and then like launch lawsuits. So go interact. Oh, you're a Muslim, right? This doesn't actually. That's a poor example. It doesn't really happen. Like if you're a Muslim baker, they're not like, hey, make me a gay cake, Muslim baker. Because nobody has the fucking balls.
Yeah.
They're like, nah, we'll go somewhere else. We'll go somewhere else.
Make it at home.
Because the Muslim baker guy's like, what? What the fuck did you say under your breath? What did you fucking say?
That's true.
Yeah, nobody does that. But no, but that's the issue with this, if you will. People are saying, so I'm not going to be allowed to go to places now. I'm going to get openly discriminated against. And like Ryan says,
They don't read. That's what it sounds like. A lot of people don't read. They don't understand shit.
Yeah, it's
just-
almost like nothing changed. It's like it just stayed the way that it has been.
Yeah.
But now you're not going to be able to impose on somebody.
Yes. God forbid.
To give you service?
You can't force somebody.
I will say though, from the other side, right? So Sonia Sotomayor, she is the she had the dissenting argument. So anytime any of this happens, they have the judgment from whoever was on the side of the pro, and then they have the dissenting. She says that Lori Smith's objection amounts to discrimination against the status of same-sex couples, discrimination because of who they are. Speaking of the court's 3 liberal justices who voted against it, she said, time and time again, businesses and other commercial entities have claimed a constitutional right to discriminate, and time again, this court has courageously stood up to those claims until today. Today, this court shrinks. The lesson of the history of public accommodations laws is that in a free and democratic society, there could be no social castes, For the promise of freedom is an empty one if the government is powerless to assure that $1 in the hands of one person will purchase the same thing as $1 in the hands of another. Thoughts?
That's not free, is it? That sounds like socialism.
Well, how so?
Because basically they're saying that regardless of what shop you're going to, it should all be the same exact thing. Like you have to get the same. You have to get the
Same service. I think that's the argument. It's like no matter who you are, you should be able to just go in there and get that product from a business.
Yeah, but that's not how it works. Because there's different companies with different company cultures and different types of service. And like you go into a Chinese restaurant, you're gonna get no service, and then you get, but they'll serve you. You know what I mean? Like they won't discriminate.
Right.
They'll be closing up the fucking restaurant at like, and then they'll still serve.
They'll stack
you.
chairs around your fucking table.
Yeah, they'll fucking feed you, and then they'll be like, "Hey, hurry up and pay! I've got to close the register." But you'll get it.
Yeah.
You know, and then another place like French restaurant and shit, they'll probably be like, "No, you can't order your dessert before," and then they'll force you to get it at the end. You know, like.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the beauty of it.
And the waiter's smoking.
Yeah. He's taking out his fucking cigarette in your coffee. It makes it better.
It's like when you, it's like Ritesh, like how he talks about if you're gonna get your steak well done, you should die. or it's like if you go to Indian restaurant and you're like, I don't want any spice in my chicken, you should die.
Yeah, of
You know,
course.
it's like
Should be punched in the
Or
face.
it's like Ritesh, he's like a bone swing isn't a wing, and I'm like, I don't know what that.
But I still think it remains and stands true that, you know, if these shops don't want to serve you because you're Asian, black, or whatever, that's on them. It's fuck them.
Yeah.
Go somewhere
It
else.
gives opportunity for another business.
They will go out of business doing that type of business, honestly.
Yeah.
You
But
know?
that's not what this does. Just to be clear, because of what you said.
Yeah.
This is about.
That's not what's happening, yeah.
Compelling the woman's words, making her use her own words and her own imagery to make your point.
Yeah. It means now you just can't force somebody to do your creative thing. But they will have to serve you. They're not going to close the door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just can't
You
do
can
the
still
thing.
get a bagel
Yeah.
if you're not Jewish.
I want the
a Jewish
service,
bagel.
and I want you to believe what I believe.
Exactly.
That's weird.
People have really twisted it to look like doors are closing on them. It's like, bro, the same shit. It's the same thing. But now
Same rules as what's happening now.
Yeah, now it just protects people that have a way that they want to do their business, and now, you know, it's kind of like what PewDiePie did with the Fiverr thing. It's like, do you remember when that happened?
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
like, because Fiverr, you could get anything done, so then he had an anti-Semitic thing done just to see if they would do it, and they did it, and it was bad on his end.
Oh.
You
They
know,
canceled
wanted to
him
do
for it, but I mean he's fine. But
Yeah.
he hired some guy who's like doing web development shit and like from another country. I don't think he knew what he was
Oh yeah.
doing. Like different language, different a lot of things.
Right? Yeah.
And yeah, for all we know, he saw it as like the Indian symbol or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, he did a full swastika and was like, "Fuck the Jews" or something like that. It was like nuts.
Wow.
But he couldn't believe that the guy actually did it, which was the point.
Yeah.
Right. The point of the whole thing was
Yeah.
that like people will
Now
still
this
do
protects
it
them. You don't have to draw swastikas if you don't.
if you don't want to.
If you're a fucking logo designer, you don't have to do swastikas if you don't
Not
want
that,
to anymore.
not to equate swastikas with
Or
just
you can
a guy
if you
being
want
gay,
to.
but like, you know, you could just do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
And if
I think
you're
we
missing
can equate
the boat,
those things.
Pretty similar.